Chapter 1. A Cruel Deal. The crystal chandelier's light cascaded across the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel, a space adorned with rare purple orchids, as if a section of Chiang Mai's rainforest had been transplanted to the heart of Bangkok. The clinking of silverware against porcelain plates echoed intermittently amidst a group of male and female business people in luxurious silk suits, their hushed whispers buzzing with anticipation for the auction of the Golden Land in the heart of the city, set to commence that evening. Starting bid, 500 million baht. The resounding voice of the city's top auctioneer cut through the silence abruptly. Behind him, a giant LED screen displayed a map highlighting the prime location in vibrant red, the glowing numbers jumping higher with each bid from the participants. Pimjai, a beautiful 28-year-old woman in a black, tailored suit made of cotton and wool blend, stood leaning against the back wall of the room, observing the proceedings through rimless glasses that reflected the blue light from the screen. Her hands were clenched so tightly that her knuckles turned white every time a new bid was announced. The events of that day, the day her father tearfully signed the bankruptcy papers, flashed vividly in her memory. 700 million! A familiar, deep female voice made Pimjai flinch. She glanced towards the front stage, where Ron, a woman in a high-waisted, blood-red dress with a thigh-high slit, sat elegantly with her legs crossed. Her fingers, adorned with a large diamond ring, sparkled under the lights. She gracefully tossed her espresso-colored wavy bob over her shoulder. The bidder is Miss Ron from the Shri Ron Group. Confirmed. Pim bit her lower lip hard enough to leave a mark. The scent of black opium, Ron's signature perfume, seemed to permeate her nostrils, even though they were tens of meters apart. She quickly grabbed her phone and typed a message to the company's legal team with lightning speed. Increase the emergency loan limit by another 20% now. 900 million from Techland. The room buzzed with excitement as the bidding climbed higher and higher. Pim quickly glanced at the gold Rolex on her wrist. 7:45 p.m. In 15 minutes, the auction would end. She took a deep breath and raised the black paddle bearing her company's logo, glittering silver Pim. 1.2 billion from Pim Tech. A hush fell over the auction room. All cameras focused on the beautiful woman standing at the back. Pim remained standing confidently, while Ron slowly swiveled her chair to face her, her gaze meeting hers through the chocolate-brown Moo lens sunglasses she refused to remove even in the dim lighting. 1.25 billion! Ron spoke impassionately, flicking her golden sapphire pen at the bidding paddle. Pim felt sweat trickling down her back. Her tight spandex undergarments were starting to constrict her breathing. But the image of her father's sadly smiling face on the last day before the factory was seized made her grip her bidding paddle tighter. 1.5 billion! This time, a collective gasp rippled through the attendees. Ran slowly pushed her sunglasses up her nose, her rose-tinted lips curving into a mocking smile. You're really going all out, aren't you, Pim? Her voice pierced through the private sound system connected to the main microphone. But have you forgotten that this sum of money is equal to 70% of your company's value? Pim felt a blush creep up her cheeks, but maintained a neutral expression. She stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight, illuminating the center of the room. A sound investment needn't be calculated as a percentage. Her voice rang out sharp and clear, like a razor blade. Because I know it's better to invest in people, not empty land. Just then, Rand's phone on the table vibrated with a message from her personal secretary. Detected urgent transfer of 20% shares from Pim Tech's secret account to a bank in Singapore. Ran bit her lip until it bruised, then pointed her sapphire pen mercilessly at Pim. 1.6 billion. 1.6 billion going once, 1.6 billion going twice. Pim closed her eyes briefly. An image flashed in Pim's mind of a 12-year-old girl being mercilessly teased by her peers, tears streaming down her face because she was wearing a high school uniform patched together from her mother's old clothes, surfaced in her thoughts. 2 billion! A shriek echoed from the old woman in the room before falling silent. Pim walked straight towards the stage, leaving Ran frozen in her seat behind. And the winner is Pimtech with a bid of 2 billion baht. Applause thundered, devoid of joy, a harsh counterpoint to the cruelly inflated, unreasonable price. Pim accepted the winner's sign from the broker, her hand trembling. She turned to meet Ran's icy gaze fixed upon her. She was like a deadly blade. "This isn't a child's game, Miss Pim." Ran stood up, leaning close enough for Pim to catch the scent of her black opium cologne. "You'll see whose fire burns hotter. And you're not the first firefighter who's tried to threaten me," Pim replied without blinking, her right hand gripping the rosewood sign so tightly that her fingerprints almost dug into the wood. Ran chuckled as she flicked her index finger against the ruffle of Pim's blouse. "We'll see." As she walked away, the clicking of her black high heels echoed rhythmically against the marble floor. Aggressive. Pim realized she had unknowingly gulped 3 times.
Chapter 2. Spicy in the Glass Elevator. Inside the 50-story glass elevator of the Serpetit Hot building, shimmering under the purple neon lights from the neighboring building as dusk began to settle, the slow, soft strains of a classical piano piece drifted from speakers hidden in the ceiling. It was as if someone had deliberately created an atmosphere reminiscent of a scene from an old romantic movie. But for Pim and Ran, at this moment, it felt like they were standing in the trenches of a war with no end in sight. Floor 47, 48, 49. The red LED numbers on the control panel blinked rhythmically like a racing heart. Pim leaned against the back wall of the elevator, feeling the chill seep through the thin silk of the peach-colored shirt she had changed into after the auction. Small wrinkles around her waist still bore witness to the 3 hours she'd spent hunched over in her office, calculating emergency loan amounts. But what made her even more uncomfortable was the lingering scent of Ran's perfume on her left wrist, even though they were standing at opposite ends of the elevator. Ran extended a finger and touched the copper-colored door hold button, eliciting a beep. Then she slowly turned to face Pim. The tall woman in the blood-red dress clicked her high heels against the Venetian tile floor, the sound echoing in the confined space. "The two of us in the same elevator. Is this fate or your doing?" Her voice was calm, but laced with a seductive tone. Pim tried not to flinch as Ran's 5'7" frame cast a shadow over her. "If you hadn't pressed the hold button, we wouldn't be in this awkward situation." Her right hand darted for her phone in her pocket, but Ran seized the opportunity to close the distance, pressing Pim's back against the glass wall. "Don't be so hasty." Ran lifted one hand and placed it on the glass above Pim's head. The light from the diamond ring she wore shimmered and sparkled. "During our 50-floor descent, there are a few things we need to clear up, Miss Pim." The cool air from the air conditioner blasted down from the vent above, but it couldn't extinguish the heat rising in Pim's chest. She glanced at her reflection in the side mirror, seeing Ran slowly licking her pale pink lips, a gesture reminiscent of a python preparing to strike its prey. Let's start with a simple question. Ran's fingers slowly trailed down the mirror, stopping just short of Pim's jawline. Why risk the entire company for that piece of land? Pim tried to swallow quietly as possible, but the sound still reached the person standing before her. She answered in a voice steadier than she felt, "Because I know its true value isn't just a number in a contract." "Oh, or is it because you wanted to beat me since our last encounter?" Suddenly, the cursed elevator lurched slightly from the strong wind gusts buffeting the building outside. Pim lost her balance and unintentionally fell forward, her hands landing squarely on Rand's chest, partially exposed by her elegant attire. Quite an interesting attack strategy for a modern-day CEO. Rand chuckled, her hands firmly gripping Pim's waist. Rand's heat radiated through Pim's thin fabric. She could feel the quickening rhythm of her heart, even as she feigned indifference. Their breaths mingled, the scent of perfume and peppermint intertwining to create an intoxicating, indescribable cocktail of emotions.
"Let me go." Pim tried to pull back, but Ron drew her closer until their chests brushed lightly. "You were the one who lunged first." Ron's thumb traced slow circles on Pim's waist. "Or is it that you just wanted me to make the first move?" The elevator lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Pim's eyes adjusted, allowing her to see Ron's silhouette, her grip still firm. Then, the emergency alarm blared, accompanied by red emergency lights that bathed them in a horror movie glow. "We're stuck in here for a while," Ron whispered in Pim's ear, her nose nuzzling against her jawline. "Are you scared? If you are, tell me. I'll hold you." Goosebumps erupted across Pim's skin as Ron's warm breath stirred the hair at her shoulders. "Do you think I'm a kindergartner or something?" She tried to yell, but her voice emerged as a hoarse whisper. "Not really." Ron's hand slowly moved up to grasp the hem of Pim's shirt. "But seeing you tremble like a leaf in autumn, I can't help but think back to my high school days in Switzerland." As the lights suddenly flashed back on, Pim quickly pushed Ron away with such force that she stumbled against the other side of the elevator. But what stunned them both was a crack in one of the mirrors spreading like a spider web from the impact. "Look," Ron pointed to the crack while calmly adjusting her clothes. "This is what happens when cold meets heat. It's beautiful in its own way, isn't it?" Pim repeatedly pressed the button for the ground floor as if it were her escape route from hell. "This kind of relationship, it's no different than broken glass that will only cut the hands of a fool who dares to touch it." "Then why, when I touched you?" Ron stepped closer again, this time using her index finger to touch the center of Pim's chest. "Why is your heart beating so fast?" The elevator dinged just then. Pim quickly pushed the door open, trembling as if a demon were chasing her. "This is a game you'll lose before you even realize it's begun." She looked back at Ron one last time before walking away. Ron watched the woman who had hurt her walk away unsteadily, her legs shaking. A wide smile slowly spread across her lips as she saw beads of sweat trickle down the back of Pim's neck and into the neckline of her shirt. "The game has just begun, Pim."
Chapter 3. Gossip News. Soft golden downlights from the chandelier stretched along the polished black marble corridor of the Pimtech building. The rhythmic click of high heels against the floor contrasted sharply with Pimjai's heart, which was pounding like a war drum. She had just left the emergency meeting, filled with the skeptical gazes of investors. The bitter aroma of espresso from the cup in her hand hadn't even reached her lips when she stopped abruptly, hearing sharp whispers from the shadowy corner beside the women's restroom. "Did you hear the news? The Sriran group just launched a full-scale attack." A woman's voice drifted through the half-open restroom door. Pimjai's pace slowed automatically. Her left hand squeezed the paper coffee cup until it crumpled. It was then that she heard the mocking laughter mixed with the excitement of two female employees gossiping animatedly. That Cobra Queen losing the bid was so embarrassing. The second voice spoke with feigned sympathy. "But do you think Pimjai has some kind of problem with Ran? Why was she so insistent on winning?" "I think it's definitely because of some personal involvement." A cheerful voice chirped up. "Remember when we were pitching the project last time? When Ron walked past, Pim looked like she was ready to cut her throat." Pim's hand rested against the cool marble wall, supporting her swaying body. The veins in the wall, once beautiful like natural marble patterns, now felt sharp like diamond blades, etching insults onto her mind. Oh my, if these two ladies actually fought, it would be quite the show. Like, hating each other, but secretly wanting to flirt. Suddenly, the sharp click of high heels like a warning bell echoed from the end of the hallway. Pim turned to see Ron, in a black sequin dress with a plunging back, revealing a double python design, sashaying towards them with the demeanor of a predator who had caught the scent of blood. "Oops, looks like we have a live drama to watch." The whispers from the bathroom immediately faded. Ron stopped beside Pim without looking at her. Her fingertips pressed the automatic soap dispenser, pink foam dripping into the marble sink. "An exemplary CEO like you also eavesdrops on such nonsense?" Pim bit her lip, tasting the faint metallic tang of blood. "I'm just wondering why some people are so shameless." "Perfect," Ryan interrupted, turning to meet Pim's gaze with a challenging glint in her eyes. "Do you really want to know me? Not just from rumors or company reports?" Rand playfully tugged on the hem of Pim's blazer. "Follow me, if you're not afraid to see the dark side of the Cobra Queen, as they call me." Before Pim could retort, Rand headed for the fire escape without looking back. Pim's hand trembled as she repeatedly pressed the elevator button, but ultimately resigned herself to following Ron down the dark corridor where the red emergency lights blinked as if to warn her to turn back. This isn't a game where you get to make all the rules. Pim shouted after Ran into the echoing metal stairwell. Ran leaned back against the cold steel railing. "But you still followed." She slowly ascended the stairs until she was half a body length above Pim. "Your body is more honest than your words, you know that." The evening sun, filtering through the narrow window, cast diagonal lines across their faces. Pim noticed a small scar on Rand's left wrist, usually concealed by a diamond bracelet. "If you're planning to lure me here to kill me in secret," Pim stepped up to stand on the same step as Ran. "You've miscalculated." Ran chuckled dryly before gently poking Pim's chest with her index finger. "If I wanted to kill you, you would have died the moment you took the auction paddle." Silence crept into the 10-centimeter gap between them. Pim could hear her own breathing mixed with the howling wind from the ventilation shaft. The scent of oud wood from Ran mingled with her own jasmine perfume, creating a peculiar, intoxicating aroma. "Why do you hate me?" Ran's question echoed as a truck blared its horn loudly below. Pim looked down at her wristwatch, counting down the time to the final meeting. "Because you are everything I don't want to be. A refined gangster who lives by destroying others." Ran gently reached out and tilted Pim's chin up, forcing her to meet her gaze. "Then why do your eyes say otherwise?" The sound of hurried footsteps from below interrupted them. Ran seized the opportunity and pulled Pim into a hidden corner beside a fire extinguisher. One hand covered Pim's mouth while the other embraced her waist tightly. Quiet. Rand's breath grazed Pim's ear. Do you want them to see the perfect CEO in the arms of her enemy like this? Pim's body stiffened as if cursed. Although her mind screamed at her to push her away, the warmth from Rand's touch sent electric currents coursing through her body. She noticed the shadows of 2 employees running past without glancing towards their corner. Your heart is beating twice as fast, Rand whispered against the delicate skin above Pim's wrist. Is this a sign of fear or excitement? When the employees' shadows disappeared, Rand slowly and gently backed away, leaving Pim leaning against the wall, breathing heavily, like a prisoner just released from her bonds. Next time, Rand smoothed back her hair as she walked down the stairs. Don't eavesdrop on gossip about me if you don't want to know the whole truth. Pim stood there frozen until the sound of Rand's footsteps faded away. She looked down at her hands, trembling uncontrollably. Her reflection in the fire extinguisher cabinet's glass showed a woman in a suit, looking more vulnerable than ever before. I have to be stronger, she whispered to herself as she pressed her left hand against the Haigu acupoint on her right wrist, inflicting pain. So no one will see this weakness again. But as she stepped back into the main hallway, the bright, white lights of the skyscraper seemed to mock her efforts to suppress everything beneath the mask of a perfect executive.
Chapter 4. Enemy in the Rain. Dark, heavy clouds covered the sky, unleashing a torrential downpour, as if the heavens were breaking apart onto the underground parking lot of the Sri Pachatat building. The sound of rain hitting the concrete echoed like a rapid drumbeat. The yellow light from the high-pressure sodium lamps, swaying in the gusty wind, cast the shadows of 2 women facing each other onto the soaked wall. Pimjai clutched her briefcase to her chest, the papers inside starting to get damp. Meanwhile, Ran leaned against the large glass window of a closed shop. Rain streamed down her body, clad in a silver-gray silk dress now clinging to her skin, revealing the pattern of her black lace underwear. Did the weather forecast forget to mention the downpour today? Ran shouted over the sound of the rain, pushing her wet hair back from her face. Pim tried to shield her face with a brown file, but the rain still seeped through the material, making her cotton shirt cling coldly to her skin. If you weren't blocking the way, I wouldn't have to be caught in this toxic rain. She tried to step around her, but Ran's high boots blocked the narrow walkway, forcing her to stop. Ran lightly tapped Pim's chin with her index finger as a flash of purple lightning streaked across the sky. Toxic rain? PM 2.5 dust? She chuckled dryly. Or is this the poison you're addicted to? Splash! Splash! The sound of the rain mixed with the sound of a car's tires sending muddy water spraying in a wide arc. Pim stumbled and fell. In the moment before her body hit the ground, she felt 2 arms tightly embrace her waist, the pressure sharp against her ribs. Careful there, ugly CEO, Ran whispered as their bodies swayed in the rain. Pim felt the heat from Ran's palms against the hem of her shirt, where a sliver of her stomach was exposed. Let me go. She tried to push her away, but the slippery ground caused their feet to tangle. Ran pulled Pim under the awning of an old pharmacy. There, the green glow from the medicine cabinets illuminated their faces, making them look like they were in a scene from a sci-fi movie. The scent of camphor and dried herbs hung in the air. Look!
Ran pointed at Pim's white shirt, now translucent enough to reveal her beige undergarments. Even when you're in a difficult situation, you still manage to dress sexily with class. Wasn't it unavoidable? Unlike you, who dresses as if you want the world to see every square inch? Ran raised an eyebrow and stepped closer until the tip of her boot touched Pim's shoe. If you want me to take off my shirt to dry you, just say the word. Her hands began to unbutton her dress, one button at a time. But you have to exchange it for telling me your secret. Why did you agree to secretly sell your shares to buy that land? The rain blowing through the vent above made Pim shiver even more. She glanced at her wrist habitually, but she had forgotten to wear her watch. My secret? She shook her wet hair, splashing water droplets onto Ran's face. You'll never know.
Ran grabbed Pim's wrist and pressed down, causing Pim to grimace in pain. A challenge like that? Her wine-red lips curved upwards. Makes me want to prove you wrong. At that moment, the headlights of a passing car shone on the spot where they were standing. Pim saw Ran's beautiful face more clearly. Her dark brown eyes had a mercurial glint, ready to erupt at any moment. A small scar on her left neck, usually hidden by her carefully styled hair. More than that, her eyes held not just coldness, but something fragile hidden within. Pim started to speak, but was cut off by Ran's embrace. Don't move. Ran's voice trembled slightly. Someone is following me. The shadowy figures of two men in black raincoats walked past the pharmacy window. Pim could feel Ran's heart beating faster than usual. She was surprised to find herself stroking Ran's back comfortingly without realizing it. Why? Ran whispered as her hand slowly slid down to Pim's hip. Why are you doing this? Pim closed her eyes for a moment. The image of the day her mother left her with her aunt in the countryside at the age of 7 flashed in the darkness. Because I know that weakness is not something that should be... A clap of thunder startled them both. Ran pulled away from the embrace as if electrocuted. You're no different from me, she laughed bitterly, just hiding the pain behind a thicker mask. The pharmacy employee returned from his errand and found that he had forgotten to close the shop door. As soon as he turned on the lights, Pim grabbed a blue raincoat from the pharmacy and put it on. Here, she handed the raincoat to Ran. Put this on before you catch a cold. Ran looked at the leopard print raincoat with disdain. Leopard print? Really? Yes, Pim replied, and quickly placed the money on the pharmacy counter before walking out into the rain. You're just a fool who thinks strength is refusing help. A taxi pulled up to the curb. Pim climbed in without looking back, but in the rearview mirror, she saw Ran standing in the rain, shivering in her soaked dress, arms wrapped tightly around herself.
Chapter 5, Deception. The morning sun shimmered on the surface of the infinity pool on the 48th floor of the Solitude Hotel, as if every baht and satang in Bangkok's real estate industry had been melted into the curtain of water cascading into the void. Pimjai leaned against the curved stainless steel railing, her gaze fixed on a group of Japanese businessmen sipping green tea in the VIP booth at the edge of the pool. Every movement was calculated, from the choice of her heavy Thai silk cream dress, which flowed as if carried by a natural breeze, to the arrangement of documents in her tan leather portfolio, intentionally opened to reveal a glimpse of a confidential project titled Venus Star. Sama-san, what do you think of our new proposal? The voice of Pimtak's young account executive spoke in fluent, practiced Japanese. The middle-aged man in a gray mohair suit leaned down to examine the document he had been given. His serious demeanor made Pim feel the sweat begin to trickle down her back, even as her outward expression remained as cool and impassive as a locked Venetian mask. This project is too risky.
His wrinkled hands placed the document on the black marble table. We need a more stable partner. Pim stepped closer. The scent of Juno, a Japanese-style perfume from the former representative, hung in the air. Risk is opportunity dressed in an invisibility cloak. She flicked her finger at the graph on the tablet screen, and Pimtech is the only one who can see it. Just then, a laugh as clear as a wind chime rang out from the hallway behind them. Everyone at the event turned to see Ron, dressed in a blood-red silk kimono embroidered with golden chrysanthemums, swaying her hips as she approached, accompanied by two handsome male attendants carrying gift boxes wrapped in emerald green silk. "Oh, it seems I'm a little late for this important party." Ron slowly swept her gaze across the room before stopping at the face of the Japanese representative. "Takayama-sama, I can't believe I'm meeting you here." Pim bit her lip until it bruised, watching the stern-faced 50-year-old man stand up, his expression noticeably changing. "Miss Ron, it's a pleasure to see you again." His words were unusually gentle. Ron coyly covered her face with a golden Uchiwa fan. "Last night at the izakaya, you left me so easily. My heart was broken." Her hand lightly touched the opening of her kimono, revealing a glimpse of her kelf. Takayama smiled and laughed heartily. He was displaying a level of satisfaction Pim had never witnessed before, as he usually maintained a serious demeanor in meetings.
"A cunning woman like you wouldn't let anyone easily break your heart," he said. Pim felt betrayed, as if a storm she hadn't seen coming was mercilessly bearing down on her. The image of last night, where she dedicated her time to revising the project specifications until 3 a.m., was fading along with the opportunity to sign the contract. She clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. "It seems Kun Ron has a plan to go along with the gift," Takayama observed. Ron offered Pim an enigmatic smile before instructing a staff member to open the box. Inside was an intricately crafted toothpick model of a building. Every component moved smoothly, powered by a magnetic system. The Siren Group proposes hybrid kinetic technology, integrating Japanese culture, Ron began. She pressed a small button, transforming the model into an Edo-style shrine. "Without sacrificing a single square inch of green space," she finished. The light reflecting off the golden model momentarily blurred Pim's vision. She saw Takayama rise and circled the piece with interest. As Ron brushed past her, the fragrant scent of oudwood mingled with the heat radiating from her body, close enough to scorch. "You should know," Ron whispered in Pim's ear, as she feigned reaching for a document, "that in this game, I never play by anyone's rules," she concluded. Pim met her challenging gaze. "And you should know, I'm not a player who accepts defeat." Takayama returned to the table with a smile. "Ron's project is very interesting, but we need time to meet with the team in Japan." Ron fluttered her fan, half covering her face. Her eyes sparkled alluringly above the rim of the fan. "If so, why not start the meeting now?" She gave orders in fluent Japanese to the two male employees to activate the hologram projection in the middle of the pool. A three-dimensional image of Kyoto during the Edo period emerged from the water, catching the sunlight and creating a rainbow overhead. Each step Ron took on the glass walkway above the pool made an image of a hanamichi, flower viewing path, appear in her footsteps. "We won't just build a building, but we will create an experience that makes every cell in your body remember what it is to be Japanese." Pim noticed Takayama was captivated by the displayed image. She knew she had to do something decisive before losing the opportunity.
Chapter 6. Your Charm. "Excuse me for interrupting."
Her voice rang out in Keigo-level Japanese. But if you want a real experience, why not try Pimtech's haptic technology? She pressed a button on her smartwatch, causing Takayama to tremble slightly as the vibration system simulated the feeling of walking on the stone floor of Ryoanji Temple. This is the connection between the digital world and the senses. Ran bit her lip, smudging her crimson lipstick slightly, before wading into the hologram, unconcerned about her soaking wet feet. Technology is just a tool. She hand-swiped through the image of virtual cherry blossoms, scattering the petals into dust. But the heart of business lies in understanding hidden desires. As Takayama reached out to touch the hologram, Ron seized the opportunity to step closer, almost touching him. Like the desire to return to being a 20-year-old, her fingers traced the pattern on his belt. Or the desire to be a hero in a supremely romantic Edo-era tale. Pim clearly saw the meeting veering off the business path. She grabbed the glass of green tea on the table and flung it into the pool, causing ripples to spread across the hologram. I suggest we move this discussion to a real meeting room, shall we? Before the water washes everything away without a trace. Her voice cut through the silence. Before the water washes everything away without a trace. Takayama laughed awkwardly before nodding for both of them to follow him into the private elevator. As the elevator doors were closing, Pim saw Ron give her a challenging look, tugging at the strap of her kimono, letting the golden silk fall to the floor. Floor 15, Diamond Meeting Room, the elevator voice announced, as if counting down to a battlefield. In a meeting room decorated in silver and black tones, Pim systematically arranged documents on the solid teak table, while Ron chose to sit provocatively with her legs crossed on the red velvet sofa, looking like a villainess straight out of a novel. Shall we begin? Ron flicked her espresso-colored bangs before Pim make everything as boring as tax documents. The 3-hour meeting that followed was a clash between reason and emotion. Every time Pim presented insightful data with graphs and statistics, Ran would counter by narrating cultural stories that excited Takayama. Pim noticed the change in the 50-year-old man's eyes. From an old-school businessman, he was transforming into a young man captivated by a dream. "Give me 10 minutes. Takayama stood up with a serious expression once again before walking out onto the balcony for a cigarette. As soon as the door closed, Pim turned to confront Ran. "Do you have no morals, using feminine wiles to snatch the contract?" Ran extended her bare foot to touch Pim's leg under the table. "And you think hiding behind that incredibly boring, dry data is righteousness? At least I don't have to stoop to being a woman?" Ran interrupted. "Don't forget, you're using your charm too, just hidden under the guise of professionalism." Pim felt like her mask had been removed. The way she styled her hair every 15 minutes, choosing to sit in the angle where the light perfectly hit her jawline, everything had been carefully analyzed by her beautiful competitor. The final meeting. Takayama returned with the smell of cigarette smoke clinging to him. "I choose to select Sri Ran's group." That short sentence made the atmosphere in the meeting room turn frigid. Pim felt like the world was spinning too fast. She saw Ran give a victorious smile as she offered the contract to be signed, but in the victor's eyes, there was a strange glint hidden within. When everyone had left, Pim was alone in the room, surrounded by the shadows of her failure. A message on her phone from Ran appeared, along with a photo of the signed contract. "I can defeat you without even lifting a finger. That's what they call a mistress." She gripped the phone so tightly her hand was marked red. The reflection in the frosted glass showed a young woman in crumpled clothes lamenting Rand's words. Use your charm. In the evening sunlight streaming through the large window, heavy tears fell onto the unsigned contract, a stark representation of her utter defeat.